It's low tide here in St. Augustine, and we're collecting mud for our Capitella teleta colony. Lauren here is our mud collector, and we're out at the mud flats, and as you can see, she's feeling the mud. We're looking for something a little silky that's not with a high sand content, and we're only skimming the top layer. We don't want to get down below where it's anoxic, because you can see that when it turns black, kind of like what she's showing you here. So we just want to skim the top layer, especially the parts that have a little bit of water in them, and then we're going to put them in the bucket, and we'll collect probably about halfway full, and then we will take them back to the lab. Welcome back. We are now to the sifting portion of mud collecting. As you can see here, we have our bucket that we collected out at the mud flats. And what we have is just an old refrigerator bucket, but we also use Tupperware, and we fill it with seawater, and we fill it about halfway. You want enough water so that your colander of choice can be submerged, but not too much, because eventually we're going to have to decant it, and that takes longer with the more mud that you have. So what essentially we do is we take our handy container, we gather mud, put it in our colander, and then from there we sift out. And so what we're doing right now is we're sifting out all of the large debris. So I don't know if you can see it, but there's leaves and sticks and all sorts of grime. And so we're sifting out these big parts, including some mud snails that got in the mix. And so we're gonna go through and sift all of our bucket until we're left with something that's like this. So at this point it's full of water and mud, and so at this point we're waiting for the mud to settle, so we end up with a layer of just water. So you can kind of see here there's just a little lighter, and that is where the mud is starting to separate. And when I put my hand in, I can feel mud up until about this point of my knuckle. And so we're gonna let this sit for a couple of hours, and then we're gonna come back and see what happens.
So now we have to siphon off all the water from the top of the mud so that it's not too thin. So what I'm going to do is take this piece of tubing and stick it in the top of the water, and then I'll suck up some water and then put the end of the tube lower than this tube up here, and it'll basically siphon all the water from the top so that we can scoop the mud into these Tupperware containers to freeze for the worms later. So now you can see that there's not much water above the mud, so we just take these rubber things,
Scrapers.
fill up the Tupperware with mud. Once they're full, we put them in the freezer to kill off anything that might still be living in them, and then we defrost them to feed our worms a tablespoon of mud once a week.